Hello again, and welcome back to the channel. Once again, today we're talking about Kenshi. If you already know what Kenshi is, you'll know it's a game about stealing, cannibalism, torture, and oppressive government regimes. But if you've never played it before, no, I'm not talking about a Brazilian life sim. Instead, Kenshi is a borderline unplayable game for kinky sadomasochists such as myself, who enjoy inflicting pain as much as they do receiving it. Being from the United Kingdom myself, I know a thing or two about rough living conditions, but even still, the worst I have to deal with is a couple of chavs chasing after my car when I drive to the local Tesco's. But in Kenshi, getting groceries from the local mud hut means sprinting across a wasteland of laser beams while being chased by crazed robots. But how did the world get this way? Well, today we're not looking at the current world and gameplay of Kenshi. Today we're peeling back the mask and taking a look back at the lore of Kenshi. I've been hard at work, poring over old tomes and Wikipedia articles to bring you the story of what came before. Kenshi's timeline can be best divided into 4 main parts, so let's start all the way back, thousands of years ago, with the First Empire. A race of spacefaring, borderline godlike beings known as the Ancient Ones, who thrived on advanced technology such as automated factories, satellites, genetic engineering, space elevators, and even made loyal sentient robots called skeletons. But why stop there, they said, so they also made giant ones called behemoths. Much like my own absent father, very little is known about the Ancient Ones. Aside from their advanced technological horrors, all we know is that at some point they got themselves into a very big, very epic war with an unknown enemy. Using their behemoths, the First Empire crushed their enemies, but after seeing the OP destructive capabilities of their own creations firsthand, they began to fear the possibility of them turning on them. Seeing no other solution, the Ancient Ones decided to pull what I like to call a little gamer move. In an event called the Obedience, the Ancient Ones lured the behemoths into a suspicious-looking pit, where they covered them with liquid metal. Problem solved. Or so they thought, as humanity hadn't considered the fact that the entire thing would eventually be discovered by the rest of the skeletons. Probably not a big deal, right? Natural disasters, plagues, celestial activity, and a skeleton rebellion. The First Empire was looking pretty fucked. It's unclear whether the rebellion was linked to the natural disasters and plagues or merely coincided with them, but either way, it wasn't looking ideal. There's a theory that the extinction of the Ancient Ones was only narrowly stopped by a being called Chitrin. It's hard to say if this was true or not, so who knows. All that's written about him on the wiki is that he was said to be some kind of deity, and through sacrificing himself to stop the ongoing calamities, he was reborn as Okren, the god of day, warmth, and renewal. But there are also claims that a behemoth named Stobe helped save Kenshi. It's unclear exactly how. There are some theories that he sacrificed himself to prevent the Ancient Ones from destroying Kenshi with some kind of giga weapon as a final contingency. But others think that he instead escaped obedience and decided to help defend the Ancient Ones from the skeleton rebellion. Either way, Stobe's body can still be found to this day in Stobe's garden. If you go there with skeleton and 2 or more non-skeleton characters, you'll get the following dialogue.
This place is way too sad.
Do you think he's crying?
Skeletons don't cry, you idiot.
Skeletons are always crying.
I can't believe this story you're telling me. It's macabre.
Tell me about it.
Hi guys, it's me, Pedals. I'm so excited to work together with Slippin', so let's get right into this. The end of the world had turned the moon of Kenshi into nothing but a dry, barren husk, polluted with microplastics and the destroyed technology of the First Empire. For a few thousand years, nothing happened, until one day a skeleton named Catlon decided to make a sequel to the First Empire, fittingly called the Second Empire. Catlon, along with his skeleton chumps, forgave humanity for trolling their big robot friends and founded the Second Empire in the Ashlands. Ashamed by their actions during the Skeleton Rebellion, Catlon and his followers eventually started to shake off their guilt and rebuild society. After a few years of growth, the Second Empire had managed to achieve the same GDP as modern-day South Sudan. Things were looking pretty good. But over to the northwest, something not so epic was happening. Stuck for food options, many of the remnant human tribes realized that human meat actually tastes pretty good.
Oh God, it's so good. So good. So good and tasty.
Alongside Catlon's struggles combating the cannibals, the Second Empire also faced internal issues, such as child prisons, paranoia about cults and piracy, on top of outright slaughter of many of their own citizens. Then one day, a guy called the Phoenix, champion of the god Okran, freed all of Catlon's prisoners and founded everybody's favorite sexist and racist society, the Holy Nation. So while the Second Empire was flushed down the toilets, the Holy Nation continued to rise. Now, Catlon lives in the Ashlands to this very day, riddled with dementia and with his once loyal followers now turned to mindless drones. So, did you like it, Slippin'? oh, you liked it? Oh, thank God. So, can you please let me out of the peeler machine now? Come on, man, I was just joking about not wanting to do a collab. Dude, I love your content. Come on, dude, please, let me out!
Between 100 to 1000 years ago, the world of Kenshi saw the rise of 3 new races: the Hivers, the Shek, and the Freakers.
It's the freak phone, and here's the party freak, Freddy Freaker!
The Freakers, despite their small presence in the game, have so much lore that they almost deserve their own video, so we'll just skip over them for now. The Shek, on the other hand, can be seen nearly everywhere in game, and have been around since Catlon's empire, and possibly all the way back to the time of the First Empire. But during Catlon's rule, they didn't have the big old horns they're known for today, and instead looked more like humans, suggesting that they evolved from them. So how did they evolve to have horns in only 1000 years? Well, we'll get to that in a sec. Since the First Empire, the Shek had lived as nomads, until a Shek warrior named Cruel came along, united them, taught them a code of honor, got into a big battle, and died. The Sheks thought that was pretty sick, and have been trying to emulate him ever since, by mindlessly throwing themselves into overwhelming odds in the hopes of facing the sweet release of death. But on the other hand, the Hivers only came about in the last few hundred years. Literally, and I mean literally, nothing is known about them. Were they mutated humans? Did they sail over from a distant civilization? Who knows? Most people just kind of said, yeah, alright, and carried on as usual. But going back to what I said about the Shek horns earlier, the going theory is that both Hivers and Shek were genetically engineered by the skeletons. Personally, this is the theory I believe. This would explain why the Hiver Queen has a biomechanical womb, and also how the Shek gain their horns in such a small duration of time. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe I'm going mad. Nowadays, the Hivers leech off the land, building their disgusting anthills and scurrying around, trying to shill their grotty merchandise to the more civilized folk. But enough about race, let's talk about politics. It was also around this time that the United Cities and Traders Guild arose from the ashes of the Second Empire. The United Cities did free people from the oppression of the Second Empire, with only criminals being made to become slaves. But over time they started tossing the world criminal around more and more liberally. Until today, where you can be made a slave for the worst crime of all, being poor.
Sir, is that—
Get out of my car now!
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you won't fucking get out of my car!
Kenshi's recent history more or less takes us up to where the actual game of Kenshi is set. The last 100 or so years of Kenshi's story has mainly revolved around the shifting dynamic of power and rulers. There's not too much detailed or interesting info beside explaining how the current leaders rose to power, so I'm just going to speedrun it. The Holy Nation's 62nd and current Phoenix, i.e. leader, was taken from his parents after birth and was raised in isolation, causing him to become an absolute edgelord. At only 16, he sentenced his family to be purged in the Holy Flame. Becomes known as the most schizophrenic Phoenix yet. The United City selects its new leader, Emperor Tengu, who came up with the idea to enslave anyone considered poor. This marks the rise of the first true Sigma male hustler in the Kenshi universe. However, the uneducated masses see Tengu as impulsive and cruel for his choices. As a paranoid response to Tengu's tyrannical reign, the Holy Nation claimed the farmland of Bast, worried that the United Cities would beat them to it, and as a show of power, the Holy Nation burned the farmland to the ground and brought the children to rebirth, where they could atone for their evil nature and sins. So that pretty much takes us up to where we are today, with both the Holy Nation and United Cities locked in a stalemate. Neither can really advance their territory without the help of the player. What happens following this point is kind of up to you, but it's hard to say if lo-fi games will ever reveal the canon outcome of the war between the two. I suppose for more lore, we'll just have to wait for Kenshi 2, when it eventually releases. So now you know the epic lore of Kenshi.
And now you know my cool backstory.
That is pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thanks to Patystrophia for helping me with this vid. He does some great Kenshi vids, and definitely deserves way more subs, so go subscribe to his channel. Go do it. Now. Also, a big thanks to all of you for the continued support. Remember to check out my About section for links to my Twitch, Discord, and Twitter. And also, if you're... Wait, what's that noise?